Welcome to another edition of the KREF High School Huddle here on our KREFsports.tv YouTube page. I'm Grayson Singleton, that's Connor Pasby as always, and make sure you follow us on Instagram and on Twitter, X, and Facebook as well for all the updates and our summer content that we're going to be putting out, as we're still going to do this podcast every week over the summer as we lead you into the 2025-2026 academic school year. What are we going to talk about today? It's our first show since the season ended, and thankfully for us, there were a bunch of camps. So Connor Pasby here has been to 2 camps so far and has seen about 6 to 8 of our teams. We're going to go through all of that here for the next 25 to 30 minutes or so. So glad you're spending part of your day with us. And Connor, you were at Bixby yesterday. You went to Edmond Santa Fe last week. Where do you want to start with some of our teams that have stood out to you over the offseason so far?
Yeah, I mean, Grace, we can start with yesterday. We were at the Bixby Team Camp where we saw several of our teams playing, Bixby, BA, Memorial, and Westmoore. So those were the 4 schools that we got to see yesterday. And we start off with Bixby, the powerhouse, of course, under head coach Lauren Montgomery. Carson Kirby, no surprise, getting a bunch of the quarterback snaps for them. You talk about Emery Snyder, the West Virginia commit, Trey McLaughlin, OSU commit, Braden Presley, the number 1 defensive back in Oklahoma. And they got a transfer portal addition, Jason Mole from Owasso, that can play quite a bit. He's going to be featured at running back. So they're loaded again on both sides of the ball for Bixby. The physical play, the toughness, the speed on the outside, what stands out for them. BA, a little bit interesting there. You got a quarterback battle with Jeremiah Satimba and Kaysen Delgado coming from Edmond Santa Fe. They have size up front on the offensive line. And the big story for Broken Arrow is the 2 guys that they brought in, both at the corner spot. Samaya Stanford from Jinx, he's a 4-star kid. Bryson Brown from Owasso, he's another 4-star kid. So you got 2 lockdown corners on the outside for BA. Memorial, man, what a job that Justin Meredith did last year. They took him to the semifinals. He was a COAC Coach of the Year. They brought back tons of experience on the defensive side of the ball. But what I liked is the guys they have on offense, playmakers on the outside. Isaac Woodard, he returns over 400 yards last year, 4 touchdowns for them. And if you remember, he had that big game-winning catch against Union on the road on that final drive that they had last year. And transfer Cam Corals, that's going to be a kid to keep an eye on. He's got speed. He'll make a huge impact in the passing game for them. For Westmoore, David White still trying to figure out his team a little bit, but you saw some nice things with Duke Berchtold and Tomalik Benson. He's got speed. He's a 4.5 guy, 40. So he's going to be wide receiver. It's going to be featured quite a bit in the passing game. So some good things to see from yesterday, Grayson.
A lot of good stuff to start us off here. Let's start with Edmond Memorial because the Bulldogs last year got to the semifinals of state and eventually lost 9-3 on the year. Now they have to replace quarterback David McComb, who was the district MVP and is going to Kansas now. What do they look like at the quarterback position post David McComb? We know they got a transfer wide receiver, Cam Corals. Isaac Woodard is back. They're going to have some playmakers, but who's going to be the guy under center that's going to be distributing the ball to all of these guys, you think?
Yeah, it's going to be a senior. I have to look back to see who it was for Memorial, but you had 2 guys being featured quite a bit at quarterback. They were getting some reps for them, so they'll have experience at quarterback. I know it's a tough position to fill with what David McComb did last year in the passing game. But, man, if you can get just some short passes to these guys on the outside for Memorial, because, I mean, when you can get them the ball, they can get out and run. So there's going to be no problem getting the ball to those playmakers and should have a good running game. That's going to be a little bit to figure out because I believe they only brought back 1 starter up front on the offensive line. So we'll see what that running back position looks like.
Nick Booker, by the way, could be slated to be that number 1 running back. Dawson Bolu, I hope I pronounced that name correctly.
Dawson, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't butcher that.
No.
He's going to be the one that's in line to be the starting quarterback. 6 foot, 170 pounds was what he was listed at in his junior year a season ago, so he could be slated to take over for David McComb. But if you look at Edmond Memorial coming back for them, Woodard you talked about, but defense is where they're going to be pretty good with Logan Lesh coming back. Colton McComb is a guy that can play everywhere in Justin Meredith's defense. Obviously, Nick Booker is a linebacker as well, and they also return a couple of corners as well, A.J. Roberts being one of them. So there's going to be a lot of experience on this defense. There's going to be a lot of experience on this offense too, but the quarterback position is obviously where you can do or die in a situation like what Edmond Memorial is going to be in come 2025.
Yeah, you hit the head. Yeah, Dawson's going to be the guy. That's who we saw quite a bit throwing passes for Memorial. Logan Lesh, Colton McComb, those are two physical guys on the defensive side of the ball with some experience, so it's nice to bring those guys back. A defense that was solid last year, and they're going to be solid again with everyone that they brought back. They did not lose many guys up front on the D-line, linebackers, corners. They are loaded again on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I'm just looking back from my notes from last year. So Tegan Lesh is back. Leland Smith is the only one that they lose, so Tripp Roberts is back. This is going to be – it was a very junior-laden defense last year. They're going to have about 9 seniors in that starting lineup that all played last year. So this one should be a lot of fun. To me, the most interesting team from the Broken Arrow camp, Connor, that you mentioned is Broken Arrow. It's from the Bixby camp is Broken Arrow. You bring over Samaj Stanford and Bryson Brown. Samaj Stanford, by the way, you mentioned he's a 4-star safety. That doesn't do him justice on the recruiting trail. He is one of the most coveted safeties in the 2026 recruiting class who comes over from Jinx. So Samaj Stanford, huge addition for Broken Arrow. But outside of the quarterback situation, Broken Arrow brings back a lot around them. Octavian Roberson was a fantastic running back. Tayshawn Jones-Wade is a 6'3", 200-pound wide receiver who's going in to his senior year. He's a really, really good player. And then Caden Moody is a guy that everybody should get familiar with now. He's a left tackle that is going to be also highly recruited in the 2026 cycle as well. I believe there's Texas Tech that's involved with him right now. So really good players coming back for Broken Arrow, but obviously the headliner are the 2 DBs that they bring over from the other 918 schools.
I like how you mentioned Caden Moody because, you could see him on the field. He wasn't hard to figure out where left tackle, big kid. He's going to lead up front with that offensive line. But, man, if they get that quarterback situation figured out, we'll see if they use both once the season starts. But you're right with the talent around the guys that they brought in, lockdown corners. That is nice to have on defense when you go up against offenses in the 6A level. So BA is a team that's going to be quite a bit better from last year.
Interestingly enough, I'll bring this up to you about Broken Arrow. Only one offensive line starter graduated. So Caden Moody is back. Their right tackle, Gerard Bresciers, who is 6'6", 310, he was a junior last year. So he could be slated to come back. They also have Tristan Silva at center, 6'5", 265, who's coming back for his senior season as well. So Broken Arrow, to me, they lost in the first round to Deer Creek to end last season, but this is a team, I think, that is going to be pretty solid coming into 2025.
It may surprise a bunch of people and maybe not on everyone's radar, but you better get to know BA very soon once the season starts. And late in that camp, they matched up with Bixby in live action when they included first downs, fourth downs, whatever, but they were going back and forth with Bixby. That was big boy ball with BA and Bixby going at it. So you love to see what the Tigers have going on right now.
And you mentioned Bixby with all of their returners coming back. Emery Snyder, the commit to West Virginia, Trey McLaughlin going to Oklahoma State, Cord Nolan at linebacker going to Texas Tech as well, and Caden Penny anchoring that offensive line. He's going to be a problem. He's, again, on the recruiting trail in 2026 class, Caden Penny starting to pick up steam. Now, Bixby does lose starting right tackle Broderick Scholl, who goes to Auburn, and Blake Hawkshooter, who goes to University of Houston. So they've got some guys to replace, but Bixby has been a pipeline for the last, decade or so. They're going to be okay.
Yeah, some key pieces they lost from a year ago, but they also brought back some big-time playmakers like we talked about at the beginning of the show. So they're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Both sides of the ball is still elite. Offense and defense. Special teams is what they thrive on as well. And when you're head coach under Lauren Montgomery, your team's going to be ready to go. And it's going to be fun to see what the Bixby Spartans can do for this upcoming season.
They may have one of the better corner duos in the entire state, certainly the biggest, with 6'3" Emery Snyder and 6'2" Braden Presley. That's going to be a problem on the outside. Let's turn to some of our more metro base teams. Norman North is coming off of a very intriguing year. So Norman North loses their quarterback, Owen Eshelman, off to Washington State. Also, Will Lundquist is off to Seminole State to play baseball. He was the leading rusher. They also lose leading pass rusher, Garrison Utley. But here's the thing. They return quite a few intriguing prospects. Left tackle Daniel McMorris, who just committed to Minnesota, is back. Ben Kolar, who is catching steam as a tight end in the 2027 recruiting cycle, or 2026 rather, recruiting cycle, is going to be very interesting as well. Just got an offer from Kansas State, I believe. And then headlining all of it is Nash Henry, who is going to take over as the starting quarterback. So Norman North, they're in a period of transition right now, but they've got some pieces, they've got some talent for Justin Jones' team. What does this look like for the Timberwolves in your estimation?
Yeah, they're big shoes to fill at quarterback, but we'll see what Nash Henry can do. But you got help up front. You got a big body in front of you in McMorris. He's a special talent that they have. Size is not going to be the issue for Norman North. I don't think it's ever an issue. They always match up with opposing teams across from them. So we'll see what Justin Jones and the Norman North T-Wolves can do. I think they'll still be a solid team. They'll still get involved in the passing game. We'll see what Nash Henry can do, getting the ball to his playmakers and the defensive side of the ball. See what that physicality looks like for Norman North.
Yeah, Norman North 4-8 last season. So looking for a bounce back year with an entirely new cast of characters for the Timberwolves. Interestingly enough, we did see Deer Creek. I think Deer Creek is a team of intrigue as well. The Antlers go 8-4 last year, but they are losing a ton. They're one of the biggest losers, not losers in terms of winner or loser, but losers in terms of guys that they lose to graduation. Starting quarterback, gone. Starting wide receiver, number one wide receiver, gone. Leading tackler, gone. Leading corner, top two corners, really, both gone. Now, they do return some exciting prospects at running back with Lamar Davis and wide receiver with Jalen Davis, and then a couple guys on defense that are going to be pretty solid. But the Antlers, after a season that kind of went sideways due to a lot of injuries, not just to Mason Smith last year, they're trying to rebound, but they're going to have to do so with also, like Norman North, a brand new cast of characters.
Yeah, I think Lamar Davis and Jalen Davis are going to have to do a lot for this offense. When you lose guys like Grady Adamson and Mason Smith. Mason Smith, I mean, that was the guy to go to for Adamson. It felt like every single possession, he was a big target. He always found ways to get open. So those two guys that we mentioned, Lamar and Jalen, they're going to have to be big pieces for this offensive attack for Deer Creek.
Yeah, so on the way up for Deer Creek in the pipeline, you have Dax Chansey, who was a freshman last year. Pretty good freshman season on the freshman team at quarterback. So we'll see if he gets into the mix. There's a couple other guys that could get into the mix, but he's going to be playing, whoever it is going to be playing behind an entirely new offensive line. Deer Creek graduated all 5 starters on the offensive line. So that's a tough task for Wade Stanley and his team to have to replace. By the way, Deer Creek also lost a couple of assistant coaches as well who went on to higher positions at other schools. So the Antlers also in a team of transition as well. I want to ask you this, Connor. Is there a sleeper team that could be really, really good this year that we are kind of underestimating at this point in the offseason?
Well, I don't know because I'm really high on Memorial. I don't know if they're like sneaky because they did make the semis last year and they surprised several people in making it that far last year. And David McComb that you lose, that's a big quarterback that went to Kansas. He did everything for your offense, but I don't think they're really taking much of a step back, especially offensively for Memorial. You don't have to worry about the defense because the defense is always going to be good under Justin Meredith. It's just about the offensive side of the ball. Can they match the defense? Can they play well on that end? I think Memorial is going to be able to do so with playmakers on the outside and a lot of speed. You're going to see quick screens, quick passes, just getting the ball to those guys and Woodard and Corals. So I think Memorial is a team for me. I know it's very early before we start the season, but Edmond Memorial is a team that I like right now.
We got about 2 months until the season starts. I want to bring this team up because you called Norman High, and I'm looking at my notes from Norman High last year. All juniors on the offensive line in 2024. You return Noah Holzer. You return Crew Knowles. Obviously, the quarterback situation, that'll be something you have to fix. You lose Ryder Murphy, but Anthony Johnson is back at running back. Yeah. And you've got some players coming back on defense. Mentioned Holzer, Ethan Young, some guys on the front. Attic Sanders returns as well at corner. So what's your early outlook on the Tigers of Norman High 2 months out?
Yeah, I'm excited for Norman High. Noah Holzer, man, that guy is a freak at linebacker. Him and Bear Boyd last year, over 100 tackles. They got speed. They can match up with anybody. Noah Holzer, he's a big kid for a linebacker, over 200 pounds. He's probably, right at 6 foot. So Noah Holzer's going to be leading that defense for sure. Anthony Johnson got banged up a little bit last year. He was able to fight through some injuries and still find his way on the field and make an impact in that running game. He's a big body. When you get into third and short situations, you're going to be giving the ball to Anthony Johnson with the size that he has to get you those few yards. And Crew Knowles, who punt returner, plays defense, offense. I mean, he's everything that you want. He'll do anything for this team, and I'm excited to see what the Tigers can do after losing some key pieces. But I think they'll still be solid.
It seems like the theme of this show, except for a couple of teams, is who is going to replace quarterback. Because Norman North, Norman High, Deer Creek, Edmond Memorial all have to replace quarterbacks for sure, which will be interesting. And some of those teams that have to replace quarterbacks have to replace at least a sizable part of the offensive line as well. So should be a fun one, but so is turnover in high school football in the state of Oklahoma. All right, that'll do it for this week's edition, our first off-season edition of the KREF High School Huddle. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media, subscribe to this here YouTube channel for all the latest and updates that we're going to give you throughout the entire summer. For Connor Pasby, I'm Grayson Singleton. We'll see you next time.